I'm Chelsea and you're watching Disney Channel. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my new office, new and improved its whole space. Today we are going to be doing something a little bit different. Today we are going to be ranking the Disney Channel original movies from basically the years of 1996 until about like 2006-ish. So think like mid-90s to like the 2010s. This was just after the Disney Renaissance on the motion picture front, with Walt Disney Studios putting out movies that captivated the generation. Thanks to platforms like Disney Plus, we now have the chance to go back and watch these movies time and again. And now I can go into the history of the Disney company at the time. I can go into the drama of everything. And by all means, if you want to see that, let me know, because I feel like that would be a really fun video to talk about. But what we are here to do today is rank the Disney Channel movies. So without further ado, I want to show how I broke everything down. So what I want to do is show my ranking system here. What we're going to start with is Cinematic Masterpiece. This is reserved for those iconic movies, those movies that you watched again and again as you were a kid, those movies that were part of your childhood, those movies that lines were cemented into your brain from the incessant Disney Channel promos.
Just when he thought it couldn't get any worse, it did.
Oh no, I'm turning into a Vulcan. Mom, Dad, there's something wrong with... There's something your mother and I need to tell you.
I am a leprechaun, Kaya.
So, Cinematic Masterpiece, top. Next up, we have Disney Plus-able, and this for me are for the movies that they may not be icons, but they're really cute and I can appreciate it, and they're definitely worth another watch on Disney Plus. Next up, we have Cute But I'm Good, which I feel like doesn't need much explaining except for I watched it, it's cute, but I'm good. So near the bottom, we have Can't Remember Much, and that's for those movies that I've most likely seen several times, but I can't remember much, and nor can I really speak to it, so. And finally, at the bottom tier, we have what I affectionately call Tragic Magic. Or is it Magic Tragic? Magic Tragic, there we go. And that is just my clever attempt at movies that are just trash. I'm sorry, I said what I said. So I gave enough context here, so I am just going to jump right in with the first movie, which is, let's see here. First up, we have Brink.
Jordy, when you woke up this morning, did you say to yourself, today I'm gonna talk, or today I'm gonna skate?
This was a classic. This is one of the most iconic Disney Channel movies, I feel like, and it actually is one of the only Disney Channel movies that Joe will willingly watch with me. What I love about this movie is that it delves into this whole concept of doing something for the love of the craft versus giving into corporate sponsorship, which I feel is very timely. You got Eric Von Detten from his Princess Diaries fame. You have Sam Horrigan as the leader of the X-Blades, whose IMDb picture is a lot more sensual than it should be. You got the underdogs versus the corporate sellouts. It's really a good one. I'll definitely put that in Disney Plus-able because it's certainly rewatchable, and I in fact have rewatched it.
Can I give you some advice? Skate better.
Skate better. Well, skate better. Well, there you go. All I have to do is skate better. Skate better. Let's go watch him skate better.
Halloween Town is up next. Oof. Guys, can we just all agree that this is one of, if not the best Disney Channel original movie? We're through here. We're done. Good night, everybody. No, but for real, this movie is iconic and for really good reason. You have Kimberly J. Brown as Marnie, who's just the darling of Disney Channel at the time. I love me some Debbie Reynolds, love me some Chocolate Bar. I love when Disney creates these whole other mystical worlds. It's really well executed. Well, I shouldn't say well executed because the production quality, it's not great. As far as those special effects go, they don't really stand the test of time. But I mean, to be fair, what 90s Disney Channel movie did? But regardless, this is without a doubt a classic, and honestly, I'm gonna put it at Cinematic Masterpiece. Next is Under Wraps. Okay, this may be a controversial opinion, but Under Wraps for me is a cinematic masterpiece. I said what I said. I am putting my flag on this hill on this glorious piece of cinema. I clearly love Under Wraps, and I very much hate that it is not available on Disney Plus, and you got this stupid sequel or remake that Disney made last year that's just nowhere near as good. This movie is absolutely legendary. You have so many icons in this movie. You have Harold, icon, Gilbert, icon, Blanket Kid, icon. And most of all, you have Esmeralda, an icon.
Mrs. Anderson? Call me Esmeralda. Her name's not Esmeralda. She's role-playing. Go with it.
I also love that Harold the Mummy is actually played by the big guy who is the mom's boyfriend in the movie. I feel like that's a nice touch. There are so many great one-liners in this movie, and I feel like 99% of them are said by my man Gilbert.
I like nice, happy movies like The Sound of Music. You've got to be kidding. No, I mean, come on, it's a great movie. It's got singing, dancing, Nazis. Well, the Nazis don't sing and dance, which would be really cool, but it's still a great movie. Unbelievable.
I honestly can't say enough about this movie, but you know what? I said my piece. Under Wraps is a cinematic masterpiece. It's my list. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Next up, we have You Lucky Dog. I'm sorry, I can't remember much on that one. Okay, next, ooh, Xenon. Now, I watched this a lot as a kid. I feel like this was one of the movies that they had on all the time on Disney Channel. Anybody else feel that way? I feel like this was always on. So I looked up what year this movie was supposed to be set in because I knew it was in the future, but I didn't know how much into the future. And I looked it up and it's actually set in 2049, which, I mean, at the rate we're going, I feel like we can get there, especially with all this talk about us moving out to space. I mean, I'd be interested. I do love this movie. I love the hair. I love the fast fashion. I love Protozoa, even though I never really quite understood if his name was Protozoa or if his name was Microbe. Hang on. Okay, so I got it. His name is Protozoa, and the band that he's in is called Microbe. Okay, that makes sense. Am I the only person that didn't know that? Anyway, it's a classic. It launched a pretty successful trilogy franchise. I like the story. Once again, this is one of those whole world building things that Disney did pretty well back in the day. Also, does anyone else remember the mean girl in this movie? I want to say her name was Margie in the movie, but I want to say her actor's name was Lauren something. Wasn't she one of like the Disney's Channel surfers? One of the behind the scenes things? You know how they would do that on Disney Channel here and there? I could never take her seriously because I always thought that she was one of the behind the scenes girls. So this is a good one. I am gonna put this in Disney Plusable because it's definitely Disney Plusable. Can of Worms. Okay, so I do remember this movie and unfortunately it feels like a fever dream, man. I don't have much to say about this. I just remember that there were these weird animation in the real world and not in a cute penguins dancing with Dick Van Dyke kind of way, but more in a terrifying animatronic nightmare kind of way. I honestly, I hate this movie. So this is going in Tragic Magic. Ooh, next one is The 13th Year. I love and despise this movie. So Disney knew who they were marketing to with this movie. They had these preteens who were fresh off of their obsession with The Little Mermaid, but they're a little bit older now. They're a little bit more edgy. They want something a little bit more grown up, but they still have that mermaid fantasy in the back of their heads. Or is that just me? So I looked up the budget for this movie and they said that it was $5 million, which is shocking to me. Even more shocking that IMDb said that they were over budget when everything was said and done, which I very respectfully, I say how? Don't get me wrong, the mom character, the mermaid mom, she is beautiful, the scenery is gorgeous, but I can't just, okay, it's one specific part. I can't get over how this one part right at the very end where Cody, he leaps out of the water as a full merman and you can see this live action human torso up above this superimposed cartoon flipper, which clearly looks like he was just hoisted out of the water holding on to some trapeze. But outside of that prosthetic blunder, I mean, the script is just a nightmare. You have the mom who's clearly an anti-vaxxer.
Well, why don't we just make sure, let's have Dr. Schwartz come over and take a look, okay?
What? You said the D word.
I know.
No, see, no doctor lays a hand on my baby.
Come on, Sharon.
Wait, you know how I feel about doctors.
There are quacks with stethoscopes, we know.
You have Jess, who's just trying to get a friend.
Just wait. Hey, partner.
No, I should be fair to my man Jess. He really does bring a lot to this movie.
Nerds don't really have friends. We have hobbies.
But you know what? This was a moment. So I'm gonna put this in Disney Plusable for sure because there is some blunders to it and I think it can be overlooked. Genius. So I do remember watching this movie as a kid and I remember enjoying it, but I can't tell you much or really a thing about this movie, to be honest. This makes me feel like one of those situations that kind of like The Other Me was, where I think it was this kid who had no friends, was a loser, but then through some sort of circumstance, he gets some sort of twin who's super cool and everyone loves him, but then something goes awry. I feel like they did that a lot back in the day. I do remember about this movie is that it was one of the very first movies of that girl from Shameless, Emmy Rossum, who apparently is a jerk in real life. Who'd have thunk it? Yeah, I can't say much about this movie, so it's gonna go and don't remember much. Don't Look Under the Bed. This movie is madness. I recently watched this movie and I can't get over how just truly unsettling this movie is. Not only is the boogeyman the thing of my nightmares, sorry, boogie person, if you know, you know.
Story on the boogeyman here.
Actually, it's Boogie Person.
This whole film, this whole movie is just unsettling. This unsettling fever dream with a forgettable leading actress and a supporting cast who look like they'd rather be anywhere but this film set. You have the usual trope of characters with the little brother being a jerk, which we'll get to later. I do appreciate the heavy undertones of this movie, really trying to delve into the fantasy versus realism and always having hope and belief, but it just falls flat when you throw in this mystical backstory with an uncomfortable plot and production quality that looks like an abandoned McDonald's play place. I will give a nod to Larry, the imaginary friend. I remember him from Even Stevens, and in fact, he was my very first crush, so.
You. What?
Yeah.
Girl, I don't know how to hypnotize people. I can do magic tricks. Here you go, friend.
What can I say? I love a man with a sense of humor. This is gonna, I'm sorry, this is gonna go magic tragic. Horse Sense. Okay, so this was a movie that I feel like was oddly on all the time, kind of like Xenon. And I honestly don't know why, because it is pretty forgettable. This was Disney's attempt at stealing a page out of Hallmark Channel's movie storybook, where you have this Richie Rich guy from the city who for some reason goes out to the country and learns how to be a better person, which, hey, I love a good Hallmark movie, but this attempt just, it falls flat for me. I appreciate the Lawrence brothers. You got Andrew and Joey in this one. Matt must have been off doing some sort of Boy Meets World thing. I do remember this movie having some like really dramatic plot devices of the mom potentially losing the house and Joey swooping in, saving the day. I want to say there also was something about them saving a horse. Am I remembering that correctly? But you know what? These Hallmark movie devices, they just need to stay in Hallmark's wheelhouse. For what it is, they do it well. I'll put it in cute, but I'm good. Johnny Tsunami, or as me and my sister used to call it when we were little, Johnny's New Mommy. This is a classic. This follows a similar trope to Brink. You know, you got the underdogs versus the bigwigs. You have the snowboarders versus the skiers. I also love that Xenon is in this movie. Disney did this great thing of just repackaging their old Disney Channel stars and plug them whenever they need a leading character. I do love the scenery of this movie. You got the beautiful tropical landscape of Hawaii along with the winter landscape of somewhere. Vermont. He moves to Vermont. I love the grandpa, by the way, too. I love his wisdom. I even love when Johnny and his friend run away and he doesn't send them back. He's like, I'm not gonna send them back. That's their choice.
You gotta hand it to him, Pete. Hopping on military transport and flying halfway around the world. Show some serious ingenuity.
I'm living for him. I want to have a grandpa like that. I think personally it's more of a captivating movie than Brink was, but that's just more of a scenery thing and a production quality thing rather than an actual storyline. So that can be debatable, but I am definitely going to put it at Disney Plusable because I think it's a good one. Oh gosh, Smart House. This This movie is where I believe Jeff Bezos got his inspiration for Alexa. Let's be real here. So with this movie, you know, I love Pat. She's an icon. And then this was another one of those movies that Disney repackaged their stars. You had the leading guy who later will be in Luck of the Irish. You had the dad, you had the sister. They've been in things. I know the little sister was in Brink. This movie is cute. You know, I like the idea of a whole wall being like a giant screen that wakes you up in the morning. And I always wanted to eat lobster over that seaside landscape. But honestly, I can't remember too much of the actual story of it. I probably wouldn't go back and watching it. It would be too unsettling. I have Alexas in every room of this house, so it wouldn't be right. Up, Up, and Away. So this movie, I do remember watching when I was little, but I really can't speak much to it. I remember thinking as a kid that the costumes were really cool. I remember thinking the costume design was really so incredible. I come to realize it's actually very Spirit Halloween-y, except for the mom, she's Slade. Outside of that, I really can't tell you what this movie is about, so I'm gonna put it in Can't Remember Much. Color of Friendship. Oh, I loved this movie as a kid. Anyone else? I remember this movie felt like so grown up, and I felt very mature watching this movie because it was based on a true story. I actually really love what Disney did here. This tackled some serious racial stereotypes and made it accessible to a young audience, and they didn't dumb it down like so many Disney Channel movies do and really what they've been doing lately. I also love the soundtrack of this movie. I remember they had that song Back in Love Again. That was such a bop. Oh, overall a great movie. I'm putting this in Cinematic Masterpiece. Alley Cat Strike. I don't remember much about this movie. I remember it was to do with bowling. I remember Kaylee Cuoco was in it, but otherwise I can't speak to it. So it is going in Can't Remember Much. Rip Girls. Another fun Hawaii themed movie, but this time it's with girl surfers. I love this movie. You have Miss Camilla Better Than Revenge Bell starring as the pipsqueak teenager who inherits a gorgeous estate in Hawaii and decides to take up surfing during her downtime between taking creepy photos of her classmates or looking off miserably into the distance. This movie was cool. It had another one of those mystical Polynesian lore elements to it, which I really love. I remember we learned the meaning of aloha. I remember Gia, she was an icon. Honestly, this movie wasn't bad. I would put it in Disney Plus-able. Quince was an interesting one. So it starred our darling Marnie Cromwell herself, Kimberly J. Brown, and she does this whole voiceover narration thing throughout the whole movie, which I don't appreciate. I feel like that really dumbs down the script and it makes it feel like you're talking to children, which, I mean, we were, and it leads me to think that the screenwriters felt like they had to provide so much context to a story, which really doesn't have that much depth to it. I found it charming just because it had my girl Kim, but outside of that, it's really forgettable and kind of awkward, so I'm gonna put it in cute, but I'm good. The Other Me. You know, I can't remember much of this movie. I know it starred one of the other Lawrence bros, and like I said earlier, it's one of those ulterior characters that he creates, like a clone who suddenly is super cool and then something goes awry, but I really can't remember much. So we're gonna put it in Can't Remember Much. Mom's Got a Date with the Vampire. I've got a bone to pick with this movie. So I was recently watching Disney Plus and going through some of their Halloween suggested movies, and this movie came up, and I remember watching it a lot when I was a kid, so I was like, let's tune in again. Let's see what all the fuss was about, because I always enjoyed watching this. But I'm sorry, this movie is trash. You got Caroline Rhea, which I love her. I love Mr. Sheffield. Also, the daughter's name is Chelsea in this movie, so I feel a personal connection to it. I want to say this concept isn't bad. Recently divorced mom being set up on a typical blind date with a guy who turns out to be a vicious, venomous vampire. You know, I hear it all the time. But the script is just horrendous. It's completely one-dimensional, and the kid actors. Okay, I shouldn't say anything because they were kids at the time, but you know what? They're grown now. They can hear it. The main kid, the older brother, he has this absolute madness to this sass and the delivery of each line, which I can imagine was just the director telling him to say it like a cool kid, but he had no true direction, so it just came off like it was a screen test for Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Ah, she is my sister.
Yeah, but...
I'm sorry, I really don't know what his choice was here. Was he trying to method act, or... It was a choice, okay? Now, don't even get me started on that little kid brother, except that he was the epitome of annoying kid brother.
It's my mom.
It's too dangerous.
I can help.
A dead vampire, do you get that?
It's my mom. You get that?
With absolutely no purpose except to make the principal cast want to gouge their eyes out with the wooden stake that kills Mr. Sheffield.
And I really am, but I can't bring you with me. I've got to drop you off, okay?
You can't. You're responsible for me now.
I don't need to say anything more about this movie. It is magic tragic and it's trash. Phantom of the Megaplex. Now on a complete 180 from Mom's Got a Date with the Vampire. I loved Phantom of the Megaplex. I still do. I love it, especially as a film buff who loves a good classic movie. I love how they brought Mr. Song and Dance Man, Mr. Mickey Rooney, to be in this movie. He's a classic. And he played the mysterious old man who doesn't have a job but insists on hanging around the movie theater anyway. And he gives this great monologue about the magic of the movies, which honestly is gold, not just for Disney Channel movies, but movies in general.
Pirate ships, bicycles that fly, angels earn their wings, beautiful women marry handsome men, and we all learn there's no place like home.
It's a great tribute. It's a love letter to Hollywood, and I love this movie. It's very charming. I'm gonna put it in cinematic masterpiece. Ultimate Christmas present. This movie I remember watching every year around Christmas time. I hope it's on Disney Plus now because I remember watching it a lot. So I, just like every other kid, especially if you're on the East Coast, you lived for a snow day. And I feel like this movie really brought the charm of a snow day, and then just when it snowballs, if you will, no pun intended. Also, if you're from the Northeast, you know the joy of a good 2-hour delay, am I right? I don't remember too much from this movie. I remember they had the robot that made it snow, but then it wouldn't stop, so it was a major snowstorm, and then Santa had to get involved. And I remember my star, my queen, Miss Brenda Song, starred in it, alongside the main girl, whose name is Hallie Hirsch, which I looked up what she was doing recently, and she opened up a donut shop in Asheville, North Carolina, and you know what? I love that for her. I vaguely remember 2 elves who were like grown men. You know, thinking about it all these years later, it does sound pretty ridiculous of a movie, but you know what? I always enjoyed it, and I'll definitely go back this holiday season. So I'm gonna put it on Disney Plusable. Xenon The Sequel. So this one is interesting because it was the very first sequel within the Disney Channel, this Disney Channel original movie era of the late 90s, early 2000s. And rightfully so. I mean, Xenon was a banger. And so why not keep it going? And to its credit, it's one of the better sequels. We have our friends Xenon and Margie returning. Unfortunately, they recast Raven's character, which I don't remember why, but I remember thinking it was pretty sus. But you know what? I let it slide because it was the girl from Color of Friendship, so I forgive them. You had Xenon coming into contact with aliens. I love that for her. You had our friend Protozoa return and drops another Grammy-winning bop, which honestly slaps. Galaxy Is Ours, honestly, I think it's better than Supernova Girl. But overall, it's a good movie, and I think I'll definitely put it in Disney Plusable. It's pretty good. Motocrossed. So I can't remember much about this movie, but I do remember it had a really edgy feminist-like movement to it, and it had a lot of fans, and I remember watching it. This was another one that I feel like was on a lot as a kid, and I appreciate it. Girl power. Luck of the Irish. Ooh, this is one of my favorites. This movie is iconic. You have Ryan Merriman from good old Smart House fame, and he plays Kyle, the popular basketball star who gets a knack for learning about his ancestry, launching this mystery quest with oddly suspicious parents. Why didn't he just do the 23andMe? He could have just spit in a tube and then got on with his life. But anyway, this movie is a classic, and according to IMDb, upon its premiere, it was the highest rated Disney Channel movie, so pretty good. This is one that I feel like the trailer for this movie or the promo is cemented in my brain. But yes, I do like this movie. You know, you don't have many St. Patrick's Day themed movies. Not that this is, but I love that this movie celebrates Irish culture and being proud of your family heritage. I also love me a good Irish jig now and again. I like it. It's definitely going in Disney Plusable. Jumping Ships. So this was a funny one because I want to say that this was a sequel to Horse Sense, but they're on a boat. Honestly, I can't remember a thing about this movie. I do remember it starred all 3 Lawrence brothers though, so that's pretty cool. You know, you get them all 3 for the price of 1, right? Halloween Town 2. So we agreed earlier that Halloween Town 1 is a cinematic masterpiece, but unfortunately that magic was not repeated in the sequel. I love that we have the original cast. We have Kimberly J. Brown, my girl Debbie Reynolds, but this movie felt just awfully claustrophobic and just dull. I mean, I do like that we have Chocolate Bar's son out for revenge, and I also love that the actor who plays him and the girl who plays Marnie, Kimberly J. Brown, are actually together and they just got engaged, so that's so exciting. Come on the show. But you know what? This movie is just not a favorite of mine. I feel like it was some poor excuse Halloween Town fan fiction that somehow made it to the screen. It also fell into the all too common trend that Disney Channel movies were doing at this time, where the siblings and the characters just became absolutely insufferable, tainting the entire movie at any chance of rewatchability whatsoever.
Stinky like playing hide and seek.
So, I'm sorry, I'm putting it in Tragic Magic. Cadet Kelly. I love this movie. I feel like this movie gave me unrealistic expectations of what I could achieve in my life. Yeah, this movie made me want to be a part of the military. Yeah, that quickly came and went when somebody raised their voice to me for the very first time and I cried. So there went my dream. But anyway, I love this movie. This was super venomous girl power on steroids. You had Lizzie McGuire with Ren Stevens dueling it out for the pretty boy Brad's affection, just to realize they don't need no man and they can conquer the world with just the two of them. I do love the touch of the step-parents and the delicate place in the family. I thought that's a decently heavy subject that was shown without being dumbed down for the kids. I really enjoyed this movie almost as much as I love the online computer game obstacle course that they put out for this movie, which I played pretty much every day of my childhood. We're putting this in Disney Plus-able. I like it. True Confessions. Oof. This movie. Okay, I'll just say it. I love this movie. There's a lot to say about Shia LaBeouf, and by no means am I wanting to get into that in this video. I am speaking solely to his performance in True Confessions, and it's truly remarkable. Whenever we're talking about his ability as an actor, I actually point to True Confessions. You have Claire Bryant shortly after her Under Wraps fame, so I tried looking up what she's up to nowadays, and she's a lawyer in Atlanta. I love that for her. You go, girl. Come on the show. So Claire plays Trudy, or True, this Spielberg wannabe teenager who enters a filmmaking contest where she makes a short film about her mentally impaired twin brother, Eddie. And I have to say, I love when Disney does this, just like they did with The Color of Friendship, where they tackled very serious, real subject matters and they tell a story in a very respectful and mature way without dumbing it down for the kids. I love the element of True being a filmmaker. So when she would insert her voiceover dialogue, it felt more natural because it was told through her narrating the short film, which I thought was really well done, honestly. There's quite a few moments in this movie that are pretty tear-jerking. And for Shia LaBeouf being only 16 when this movie came out, so maybe 15 when this movie was made, I think that says a lot about his acting abilities. I can't say enough about this movie. I highly recommend it if you haven't watched it. This is going in Cinematic Masterpiece. This is great. Get a clue. Oh my gosh, Disney's Spy Kids movie. So I remember enjoying this movie because I was a little bit older. I was more mature when this came out. So I thought the fashion was great. I love a good murder mystery. I'm a crime junkie. But you have Lindsay Lohan, Brenda Song, the other darling at Disney Channel, which side thought, something that I was thinking about recently is why didn't any of these early Disney Channel stars get the record deals that you had like Miley and Demi and Selena just get? I don't know, but all I want to know is where's my Brenda Song debut album? I want to see it. Anyway, back to this movie. I feel like this is almost one of those early films in the new era of the Disney Channel movies where they were more edgy and more for tween age viewers, which I appreciated because this came out right as I was approaching my teen years. I liked all the cool gadgets that they used. I always wanted some of them. In fact, I still do. I think it's cool. I'm gonna put it in, you know, cute, but I'm good. I think I appreciate it, but I'm good. Double teamed. So I have a personal connection to this movie because not only did I play basketball as a kid, but my childhood best friends were twins. So pretty much this movie was made about my life. I watched this movie a lot as a kid. I remember I had it on VHS tape. I love that you have the one twin who was super sporty and the other one who was more artsy. She wanted to do theater, which a woman after my heart. You had Queen Mackenzie Phillips as the mom, who was one of those constantly repackaged and repurposed Disney moms. Similar to motocross, it showed a typically seen as a male sport being played and being played well by girls, which as a young teen I found really inspiring. Looking back now, I wouldn't say it's a favorite of mine, but it was cute. I probably wouldn't go back watching it though. Now, we're actually gonna end it here because after this we get into a new era of Disney Channel movies where it was the launch of the films like Cheetah Girls, High School Musical, Camp Rock, and I personally feel like that calls for a whole other separate video. And by all means, if you want to see a part 2 to this, let me know in the comments down below and I'd love to get into that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this brought back some fun memories of your childhood. I really love taking this walk down memory lane. It was a blast and I'm really excited to keep going. So be sure to leave a like and comment down below and be sure to subscribe for more travel and lifestyle related content. Bye guys.